Chairman Pearson.
Here.
Senator De Palma.
Here.
Senator Felag.
Here.
Senator Acosta.
Present.
Senator Cano.
Here.
Senator Murray.
Here.
Senator Seveny.
Here.
Senator Sosnowski.
Here.
8 members. There's a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. To begin today, we're going to start off with Senate Bill 582 by Senator Euer, an act related to education, foundation level school support. Senator Euer, I believe, has joined us today. Senator, welcome to Senate Finance.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you for letting me introduce this legislation. On it, basically this bill is providing that districts with free and reduced lunch populations above 20% would have their minimum housing aid share increased to 40% for projects completed after July. Perspectives, but as you all know, being on the Finance Committee, all of the numbers are really about how we are impacting people's lives. I put this bill in because, Newport is one of the communities that holds, we have 16% affordable housing in Newport, and I am really thrilled that Newport is doing their part to provide affordable housing for folks. What we have seen as a result of that is that our school district also has a high percentage of kids who have needs for free and reduced lunch. And I'm, very happy to have a school district that is supportive of that. When we had the gas outage in 2019 in Newport, we all really felt as a community and saw firsthand how much our school system really provides wraparound support services for the families in our community. And so really what this bill is about providing support to those families and support to the school district that is providing services to the families. So it's about providing support and also incentives. I think, previously there's, an ambitious goal that is not met in many communities about reaching a 10% housing threshold. Newport has done that, and I'm very proud to represent a district that has done that. And I think having things like this into the funding formula, I think would potentially incentivize other communities to also help them reach that 10% threshold. So I'm grateful also to my co-sponsors. I know Senator Murray also represents Woonsocket, which is another community that has also reached their threshold of affordable housing. So thank you to her, and also thank you to Senator De Palma. I also believe the superintendent of the Newport schools is planning on submitting written testimony if she hasn't already. And she can speak much more eloquently than I about the needs of our kids and of our schools down here in Newport. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I thank you for taking this into consideration tonight.
Thank you so much, Senator Euer. I appreciate your advocacy on this. I know we've certainly seen a lot of success with these incentives and moving school construction across the state, and I think it's going to be an area we continue to have opportunity in. So thank you for bringing this forward. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee for Senator Euer? Hearing none. Senator Euer, thank you so much for joining us today. Oh, I'm sorry. It appears Senator Seveny may have a question for you.
So if this passes, Senator, this goes to help with the high school construction and all that stuff, right? I mean, they're in that window.
Yep, that's correct. That's correct. So, one of the wonderful things is Newport did approve over $100 million bond that will replace our high school and expand the elementary school. And so this would help with the reimbursement of that project.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay. Hearing none, thank you so much, Senator Euer, for joining us today. That does conclude our testimony on Senate Bill 582. Was there a motion from the committee?
Motion to hold?
Senator Palmer makes a motion to hold, second by Senator Murray.
Second.
Will clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Aye.
Senator De Palma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski. 8 in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We will hold that bill. Next on our agenda, I'd actually like to move back to the top of our agenda. The first three pieces of legislation on our agenda today, Senate Bill 351, 366, and 373, are all pieces of legislation from the Senate Task Force on the Education Funding Formula that we were able to have in 2019 and roll forward into 2020. Unfortunately, these bills were introduced just as we shut down due to the COVID pandemic, and so we were not able to hear them last session. I want to thank Chairwoman Cano of the Education Committee for scheduling the remainder of the task force bills that were in the Education Committee yesterday, and was really pleased to have the hearing on those bills, and I'm also excited to make sure that we hear the bills that are before us today in this committee. What I'm going to plan to do for the bills for 351, 366, and 373 is just to go through the task force recommendation and the finding that supports the bill as we hear them, and then obviously go through any questions, comments, or witnesses on any individual bill. So for first, Senate Bill 351, the task force had a finding that the state share ratio provides a minimum expectation for what a community should contribute each year to their schools, also known as the local share. While the state share for education aid has steadily increased, many local education agencies have either reduced funding or provided only modest increases over the 6-year period. With the exception of 4 communities, from 2012 through 2018, communities have decreased their local share of funding. In other words, state money has displaced local money instead of increasing the total resources available for education, which is counter to the intent of the funding formula. An analysis of the fiscal 2018 data, which was the latest available at the time, showed that the following communities were not meeting the core minimum per pupil spending amount. Woonsocket by $13.5 million, Pawtucket by $13.2 million, and Providence by $6.4 million. The recommendation was to require that the Rhode Island Department of Education publish annual state and local share calculations as part of the budget process, and that we begin a process to require the municipalities to meet their obligations, but also provide them the opportunity to work with the Department of Revenue if they were not able to afford those obligations and work on a longer-term plan, or notify the Assembly if they were not able to complete that in totality. That is the crux of Senate Bill 351, and I would just add, I do think one of the key pieces to this has been, despite the funding formula passing over 10 years ago, we've actually never truly communicated to the municipalities what their obligations were in this arrangement, and so this is at least the first right step in that direction to make sure that those communities are aware of the obligations that exist under the state funding formula. So with that, I would take any questions or comments from members of the committee before we move on to any other testimony. Hearing no questions or comments from the committee, we actually did not have any witnesses to sign up to testify.
Chairman.
Yep, sorry. Senator Cano.
Sorry, this is Sandra. I'm driving, so I'm not able to raise my hand. I wanted just to make a comment in regards to this recommendation. As you have stated, Pawtucket is one of the communities that haven't been able to meet the local share. By the time that I was in the Senate Task Force, one of the things that I brought out, and I do believe that it was the same true statement for Senator Murray, which represents Woonsocket, is that it's very difficult for communities such as Pawtucket, Woonsocket, Providence, even Central Falls, that doesn't apply because they don't have a local chair, but for communities that serve the urban core to contribute the local share of education to and to increase it based on our tax base, right? And because of the need is much more higher. So I just want to make sure that I state for the record again that there is a concern when it comes to this legislation, but I also do acknowledge that if the community is not able to come up with a plan, that the state will work with the municipalities to make sure that a local chair is met. So I want to make sure that I state that for the record as I represent Pawtucket, and I do know that at the time that the task force met, this was a concern for my own local community, so I want to make sure that I state that for the record.
No, thank you so much, Senator Cano. I do appreciate that, and I appreciate working with both you and Senator Murray on this issue, and I know that Senator Murray would also like to comment as well. Senator.
Yes, just very quickly, I'd like to echo the sentiments of Senator Cano, and I do want to point out that, it is very difficult for communities, these urban core communities, whose median incomes are largely much lower than other communities and whose taxes are often higher. And I would just really want to stress, and I made this clear during the task force as well, during those hearings, that, every effort needs to be made to work with the community and to really look into what they can actually afford. But yeah, representing Woonsocket and having such a low median income, it is concerning. And I can appreciate this bill and wanting all local contributions to, or all local municipalities to pay their fair share, but there are some communities like ours that are in a very difficult position.
Thank you so much, Senator. Senator Acosta. Senator, I think you may be on mute.
Apologies. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to my colleagues who've spoken on this so far. I apologize if my remarks seem naive. I wasn't on or in the Senate at the time that you guys carried this out. So it's my understanding that the state share is supposed to address some of the differential levels of income that our municipalities have, right? And so what are the valid reasons? Or I guess, well, before I get there, I guess the first question is, how is it that the state is making the calculations for the local share that makes it so that there are some municipalities who still can't meet that? And why is it that there are some municipalities that still can't meet their local share, given that it's supposed to be calculated through an equity lens, right? So the state share is greater for cities who have a lower tax base, presumably, or a smaller tax base. It's supposed to be. And so where is the gap between what the estimated local share is and what these municipalities are able to contribute in practice right now?
Senator, I think that's it's a good point, and you are correct. The share that is given to every city and town is based on that community's ability to pay. There's a complicated quadratic formula that does take into account those measures. And you do see very wide differentiations between communities that are at the lowest level of state support, I believe in the low 30s, up to communities that, Center Falls 100% paid, but even Pawtucket, Providence, Woonsocket have very high percentages of their education expenses paid for by the state, given their reduced capacity. I think one of the key issues that we've found, though, is that we've never even communicated to those communities what their obligation was. And the state, when the funding formula was passed, was not meeting its obligation. And we, as the state legislature, I wasn't here at the time, but we as a state legislature gave a 10-year period for the state to ramp up its contributions to be able to build that in over time. Unfortunately, we were not, I don't say this is at the fault of necessarily municipalities. We didn't outwardly tell them, and we didn't outwardly set the expectation as to what that municipal share would be. And so I think many of the municipalities saw the additional state aid coming in, and rather increasing support and improving their schools, took the opportunity to potentially not increase, local taxes for all the right reasons that of course they would not want to do that, but they were not meeting their obligations under the funding formula. What I would say is the importance behind doing this in this bill is to make sure we communicate to those municipalities what that expected obligation is. Now, there is a very real possibility that our quadratic mean formula that we have perhaps is not accurate. Maybe the ability to pay for some of the communities is not actually there that the formula intends it to be. And that's why within the bill, it requires the Department of Ed to provide the number to the city or town. It requires the city or town to make a plan to meet that number. They have to work with the Department of Revenue, and the Department of Revenue is the division in state government that oversees municipal tax capacity and municipal finances. And the cities and towns are asked to work with the Department of Revenue to ensure that they have their plan to meet that obligation. However, if the chief executive of that city or town says, even in a 5-year window, we can't make it, they can work with the Director of Revenue to get them a waiver outside of that process that says, yes, the state has independently verified that the city of Pawtucket may not be able to meet its obligation, and the Director of Revenue is then responsible for informing the governor, the President, the Senate, and the Speaker of the House, because that would require us then at that point to go back and say there's something wrong with our formula in that the community can't meet it. If the community still can't meet it after 15 plus years since when the funding formula went in, I think we all need to stop pretending that we're eventually going to get the students equitably funded and acknowledge that the state may have to take on a greater responsibility if that community factually and verifiably cannot meet their local obligation. I hope that helps. Okay. Senator DePalma?
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I know we spent quite a bit of time on this, I was going to say last year, but 2 years ago and over the last N number of years on the formula. If we have available, not necessarily to discuss today, maybe we can share with everybody what the numbers were. As we always talk about, you never want to look at an instant in time. You always want to look at a trend. So since the funding formula was put in place, I'm just going to be respectfully direct, knowing some of the cities and towns that I represent. It would be good to provide to cities and towns what the expected contribution is. I've seen over the years, not just the ones I represent, not all of them, and then outside of that, they looked at the additional, those who gained, because for the cities and towns that I represent lost money over a period of time, and some gained over later years. But some looked at it as a windfall. So they looked to supplant local aid with state aid, and basically not to take a zero-sum game in the end, but in some regards, that's what it was. So I think before we make a statement one way or the other with regards to what people did or what people can or can't do, did or didn't do, we can share that information over the 10 years of what the state share was, what the local share was, actual numbers, and even student population, because I think that's the other piece of this as well. I think it'd be eye-opening for all on the committee to have an appreciation of what those numbers are, to really look at, did a city and town actually increase their funding over time as they got more state aid? Did they make it level? Did they make it go down as state aid went up? I like to think we're going to see a combination of all those, but just a suggestion, not for discussion or analysis tonight, but I think it'd be worthwhile for all on the committee to see that.
Thank you, Senator. I do think that is actually something that's pretty easy to put together. As you like to say, this is simply a mathematical equation with facts and data, and it can be easily computed to determine that information.
Thank you.
I do just want to note we do have some written testimony from the School Superintendents Association in support of Senate Bill 351. We have some also written correspondence from the League of Cities and Towns who expressed concerns. The members do have that in your written testimony packet where the communities, the League makes the point that I think has been discussed here this afternoon, that they're concerned about the ability to pay. I would respectfully redirect their concern to, rather than the concern with their ability to pay, they should be raising the concern on the state funding formula share ratio if that concern is there versus meeting the obligation that their students deserve for equitable funding across the state. That does conclude both the verbal and written testimony that we have. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, Senator Palma?
Motion to hold?
Senator Palmer makes a motion to hold, second by Senator Seveny. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator De Palma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny. Senator Seveny, yes. Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
8 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clerk. Next on our agenda will be Senate Bill 366. As I had done for the prior bill, I also see Senator Casada here as well. I will just briefly read the task force finding and recommendation, and then ask Senator Casada certainly to make any comments. Task force recommendation or finding number 7 were tax treaties entered into after May 15th, 2005 are not an exemption to the value of property used to calculate the state share ratio. For communities with exempt properties, the property wealth of the community is calculated as if the exempt property does not exist. Any treaties entered into after the state are included in the valuation, distorting the true tax capacity of the community. Essentially what this is doing is it's for those communities, and this may be part of some of the issue on some of those communities, where if they have properties that are under a tax treaty and are not tax-paying properties, it's not mattering, and the community factor is still considering that that property is available and is being taxed and has the tax capacity in that community's share ratio. So obviously this could distort and make it look like communities have a greater ability to pay than they do, and so this bill would seek to amend that clarification. Senator Casada, this is your legislation, and I'd ask if you'd like to make any comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member of the committee. And I'm glad to have the opportunity to present this bill to you. One of the things we always hear from the city of Providence, that 41% of the property that don't pay taxes at all. And then 6% of the city pay half of the taxes they are responsible to pay. Then that makes the city, when we are the biggest school department in the city, make the city hard to commend all the responsibility that they have, especially talking about the school department. And I want to thank you for the explanation you just offered to most of the committee people. But one of the things that I find out too, this way, making the state responsible to pay for the money that the city is not receiving at this time for those property. And we're talking about, it's a lot of property in the city of Providence. When you're talking about 41.8% of city don't pay taxes at all, and then 8% pay a minimum of the taxes they're supposed to pay, we're talking a big, almost 50% of the property in the city do not pay the taxes. Then it's a big deal. And for what this bill does is to make the state, to, especially the funding formula for the school. And one of the things that we are fighting to get is the city of Providence receiving more money from the state to replace the money they're not getting from all this property that they don't pay taxes at all. I want to thank you for the explanation that you offered, but I will answer any question. I have to be quick because I'm in another meeting at this time, and in the Judiciary Committee, and I'm on my phone over here, and I have the computer in the kitchen waiting for me. And thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to other members. I will answer any question you may have.
Thank you so much, Senator. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee?
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Palmer.
If I may, thank you, and thank you, Senator, for bringing this forward. The one challenge I have, and I'll go back and look at the analysis that we did with the commission back in 2019, is we also have to factor in the pilot money. So if you look at the pilot money, and I've done this for every single city in town, and you look at how it's calculated, I know it's not the entire value, but with regards to the pilot money, since you brought up Providence here, let's talk about Providence for a second. It's not just based on the value of the property. It's the value of the property plus the tax rate. So in the case of Providence, I think it's $60 per thousand, or let me say, yeah,
$60 per thousand,
yes,
yes.
$60 per thousand. Unlike, I'll say, the 4 areas I represent, they're all under $19 or $16 per thousand, roughly. Different. Granted, we're talking suburban. Newport's a combination of both of those. Providence is clearly an urban area, but we have to ensure we factor in the pilot money as a part of that, because it does account for what isn't taxed, whether it's educational institutions, hospitals, city governments, all those kinds of things. And I've gone through all the complete list of all those. But then the college, right? Then whether it's Brown, PC, Johnson & Wales, URI building probably as well. Exactly.
You have Providence College. There's so many.
So given that, one of the factors there is the pilot money given, not just based on the value, but also based on a higher tax rate as well. So there's, compared to other cities and towns that have similar challenges, but get less value, potentially for the same property. I realize property is valued differently based on where it is, its location. It's not the same as cars. We're not going to go there, but we have to factor that in somehow as well with regards to how we look at this to appreciate the entire picture of the pilot money that comes with it as well. That doesn't necessarily meet your total value.
Senator, I do think that's a good point. My memory is being tested a bit, but if it is right, I do believe pilot factors into the quadratic formula that calculates the state share ratio, because the underlying formula that we use that determines several of the other state aid allocation buckets, I think includes that factor in it. But I would honestly have to go back to our mathematical homework to confirm my memory. But I do think there's something in there on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you have other property like, let's say Providence Mall, 160 Dorrance Street, that they pay half of what they're supposed to pay. Then, or even many other hotels in the city don't pay the taxes they're supposed to pay either.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Senator Palmer and Senator Casada. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, thank you so much, Senator Casada. And that does conclude the testimony. I believe I had earlier said that we had, if I didn't, I apologize. We do have written testimony in support from the Rhode Island School Superintendents Association on this legislation. But we do not have anyone sign up to testify, so that does conclude our testimony on Senate Bill 366. Senator Palmer, would you like to make a motion?
Motion to hold, please.
Senator Palmer makes a motion to hold, second by Senator Sosnowski. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator De Palma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny. Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
8 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next on our agenda is Senate Bill 373 by myself, an act relating to education. Again, this is another task force bill, so I'll just briefly read the task force finding and recommendation as a way to introduce the bill. It was finding number 8 from the task force. Charter school tuitions are not tied to an investment strategy to improve student outcomes. Charter school proponents have successfully advocated in the last decade to expand choice, allowing students to exit underperforming schools for the promise of a superior charter school education. However, the Board of Education has failed in its responsibility delegated to it by the General Assembly to make prudent investment decisions. School choice can be costly as systems are duplicated, and the investment of limited state and local dollars must be made where student outcomes truly improve. The task force heard from high-performing LEAs that are under charter school tuition pressure due to the fact that the LEA schools are outperforming the receiving charter. Any available charter seats should be reserved for students leaving an underperforming school. The recommendation for this finding was to implement a Massachusetts-style model where the total amount of an LEA's budget that can be allocated to charter school tuitions is tied to the LEA's student performance data. Additionally, for new charter enrollments, the local tuition due to a charter school would be 100% when the receiving charter is outperforming the sending school. When the sending school is outperforming the receiving charter, the local tuition paid by the sending LEA shall be no more than 50% of the local tuition calculation. Pursuant to Massachusetts law, district tuition payments to charter schools are capped at either 9% or 18% of the district's net school spending in any fiscal year. The cap of 18% is if the district is performing in the bottom 10% of all statewide student performance scores released in the 2 consecutive school years before the student submits the charter school application. So this is the foundation for Senate Bill 373. It takes into account both of those factors in the bill, following a lot of the Massachusetts statute that is in place in that state as well. With that, are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay, hearing none, I do want to note we have...
Mr. Chairman, I had my hand raised.
Sorry, I can't see you, Senator. You're buffering, but please proceed. We can hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have a question along 2 lines. I'll throw them both, and then I'll give you a chance to respond. The first is regarding selection bias. So I think that arguably the biggest problem with charter schools as they are is a selection bias problem, where who are more likely to apply to charter schools are more likely to get in if you were drawing from the kind of general population. And so I worry that by tying funding to test score outcomes, we may be perversely incentivizing the cherry picking of students who can perform better on tests. This is kind of like the problem that was created by President Obama's race to the top paradigm, which is that you prize people who are performing well and you punish those who are struggling the most. And so what you would do is create school districts or schools that would want to have high-performing students because that guarantees that they would get more money. Now, that ties into my second concern here around how you're comparing scores. So in a model where all the kids that attend the charter school come from the same district, it's not that hard. You could say, we'll compare the mean scores from the charter to the mean scores from the sending district. But if the populations of kids are not comparable, right? So last night we talked a lot about this a little bit on the phone, but there's a charter district from your community that serves students from Cumberland that disproportionately is composed of Black and brown and low-income students, especially when compared to the sending district, to Cumberland itself. And so you cannot compare a free and reduced lunch student. In some school districts, in some charter school districts, if they enroll kids from various communities, you might not have sample sizes large enough to properly compare these students. Essentially, you wouldn't be comparing apples to apples, right? And so we could try a variety of statistical techniques, some of which I'm writing a paper with right now: propensity score matching, course and exact matching, nearest neighbor matching. But none of this stuff is perfect, and there are nowhere near the levels of details in this bill to appropriately compare student scores to do this well.
Thank you, Senator. Certainly would be more than happy and willing to work with you on what the right statistical model may be. I think there's 2 elements to the bill. One is, I think, the area that you're talking about, which is comparing the performance of the sending school and receiving school. Obviously not done at an individual student level, but the goal would be that I think the tenor and the premise that has been presented by charters has been to provide students in low-performing schools an opportunity to go to a higher-performing school. There may not be a perfect way to statistically model that and determine that, but I do think we probably agree that we want to make sure that these seats are available to students that are leaving an underperforming school. I don't know that we want to take a student from a higher performing school and place them into a low performing school. And so that's one piece of it, and I'm certainly willing and actually happy to work with you. I know this is an area where you do your studies to determine, what a model like that may look like that actually would be effective. And then the second piece of the bill is related more towards overall performance of the underlying district that Massachusetts has put in place that sort of limits the capacity of how much of a budget can go out to charter schools. Based on the performance of the underlying district. So there's sort of a district performance level here and a school performance level that's being measured, but certainly would be again happy and willing to work with you on what the right outcome should be there. Are there other questions or comments from members of the committee?
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Palma?
Very quickly, I know I forgot who has the legislation. I might not be up in finance, but I think we potentially get around that issue, that the predicament of the situation that Senator Acosta brings forward via a opt-out as opposed to an opt-in. That potentially would ameliorate that phenomena that could happen as it relates to Senator Acosta's phrase of cherry-picking students to ensure that the best ability you can. While we hope that never happens, if a opt-out approach is used or a variation on that theme is used for student selection for charters, that would be a way to help ameliorate that potential system from happening as opposed to other way of opting in. So just something to think about.
Thanks. Thank you, Senator Palma. I think that is a very good point. And I know that as a bill that I believe we heard in education last year, maybe the year before, and I'm sure we'll hear again. I do think that is absolutely, to your point, a potential solution where it's the opt-out versus the opt-in would get a true random sample of the students. I do think that is something we should be looking at and looking forward to. I know the charters have testified against that in the past, but I do think that would move us in that direction, as you mentioned. Senator Seveny.
Yeah, thanks. I've just got a quick question here. Has something changed with the system for students going to charter schools? Isn't that all a lottery-based thing?
It is a lottery, but the individual's family or the student's family needs to actually enter the student into the lottery.
Yeah,
and
of course.
But I get your point, Senator. I think your point there is that if, to Senator Acosta's point, how would a charter be able to cherry pick their students if it's a lottery? I think is your question.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's it.
Any other questions or comments from members of the committee?
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Acosta. Sorry, I can't see you, Senator, so please just verbally just jump in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just one other follow-up that I had that doesn't come out in the bills that were that emerged from the task force, but I think is important, is tightening up the charter recertification requirements. And so we did get some written testimony, which I appreciate. And one of the things that some of the proponents of charter schools mentioned is that they're held to a higher bar, which is, I think, a half-truth. It's a truth in that charter schools do need to outline certain performance benchmarks that they're going to hit in order to be reauthorized, right? So every 5 years, there's a reauthorization process. The maximum you can get authorized for is 5 years. But the problem is that we have historically in this state reauthorized charters that did not meet those benchmarks. And I understand the spirit of the bill that we have here, and obviously we're hearing it in finance, in trying to hit them in some ways where it hurts financially. But I also think we need to be realistic and look at what's been happening outside of just the money. And what we've been seeing is that schools that were supposed to be held to different standards with different levels of accountability have not. And so I think that we need to get with Rhode and say, listen, if they're going to be benchmarks that schools have to meet, they must meet them in order to continue to stay open. We cannot continue to reauthorize charters that don't meet benchmarks that they set with the state, right? They're essentially in violation of their contract. And we talked about this as being kind of a contract-based relationship. And so I would encourage us to think about tightening the reauthorization procedures so that we don't just keep rubber stamping approvals.
Thank you so much, Senator Acosta. I think that's obviously a very valid point and concern that we need to continue to make sure we stay on top of. Are there other questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay. Hearing none, we have a lot of written testimony on this bill. We have testimony from the Rhode Island School Superintendents Association in support, and we appear to have two essential form letters, one from a series of charters, and the other from the peers, parents, and students from at least one or two charters individually. All of that testimony is in your written testimony packets. We also do have a series of individuals signed up to testify. The first individual signed up to testify is Kirk Robinson in opposition to the bill. Kirk, welcome to Senate Finance.
Hey, how is it going?
Thank you. Please proceed.
Yeah, happy to do it. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Kirk Robinson. I live in Providence. Appreciate some time to talk to the members of this committee about this bill. So I'm testifying in opposition to this bill for a couple of reasons. One that's a little bit more granular, and then one that takes a bigger sort of step back and looks at the bigger picture. So just for some context, I used to be a classroom teacher many years ago. I now work in higher education, so I know a thing or two about assessment, and I just kind of had some questions about this bill in terms of that. So, I've read through it, and I see here that local share of education funding shall be paid to charter public schools based on a comparison of performance data between the specific school from which a student is coming. I'm on, looks like the second page at the top, clause C. And so, when I see things like this, I just kind of wonder, what we mean by student performance, and that if student performance is measured from a paper and pencil test, oftentimes what that does is it captures a specific moment in time for that student. I'm against paper and pencil tests. I don't actually think that they measure what they say they measure. You're capturing a specific time in that student's life, and oftentimes if the scores aren't high, it could be as easily attributed to the fact that maybe that kid didn't eat breakfast that morning, or maybe there's something in the house, or maybe they didn't sleep well last night, or there are a whole host of reasons why students don't perform well on paper and pencil tests, and I think tying funding to that kind of performance is a very bad idea. I don't think you're going to get what you're actually trying to measure, frankly. And also, a paper and pencil test is one particular learning modality. I tend to think that students tell you a lot more about what they understand and learn if you've given something much more comprehensive, like a project-based assignment. So just some things to consider when thinking about, if this bill is purporting to do what I think folks want it to do. And then, of course, the question is, does student performance actually measure a school's performance? Because if that's the metric that we're using to measure an entire school's performance, I'm not sure that schools are very complex places. There are lots of subcultures. There are lots of people who do lots of different things. And so I don't know that student performance is a good metric for how a school on its whole performs. I used to, when I taught in the state of Florida, and their state passed a bill the year I was teaching that measured that tied teachers' pay to student performance on tests, as if a teacher's performance in the classroom has anything to do with high-stakes paper and pencil testing. It really doesn't. There are so many reasons why students perform the way that they do on these tests, and I don't think it's very well understood. And also, and this is kind of the broader criticism that I had, which was this idea of using kind of like the business model to assess education, I think is a bad idea. Because that's what a business model does, like it creates incentives that don't fit education, because education is not in and of itself an efficient thing. Learning is very complex. It's incredibly inefficient. Oftentimes, after a student is removed from a learning context is when they actually apply the knowledge that they learned in that space. Like, it's not something that can be done on demand. At least I don't think so in the years that I've been doing this kind of work. Like as I said, I work in higher education, and I actually do work around college student learning. So, which is different, but not all that different. And then, the last thing I'll say too is, like, I see here that this is for, charter public schools, and, charter schools, I tend to think are a slippery slope towards school privatization, which I'm just unabashedly against. These types of schools are less accountable. I think they're worse places to work. They tend to not be unionized. I'm a big proponent of teacher unions. I think teachers need to have control over their work. I think they are happier. I think they do a better job with their students when they're unionized. Again, I speak from experience from a right-to-work state, from Florida, where morale was incredibly low. It's not a mistake it's not, coincidence that I'm not in that profession anymore because of how difficult that work was in a state that didn't have strong teacher protections. So, that's kind of, those are kind of my perspectives on the bill. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you so much, Kirk, for your testimony. We do appreciate it. I would just point out the point around performance, how we define it in the bill. It says pursuant to section 1697(1)-1, which is the Education Accountability Act, which has multiple pages of how performance is defined. It is how we comply with, I believe, ESSA, and also how we do the school-based report cards and stars. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee?
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Palma.
If I may, was it Kirk? Is that who it was?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, Kirk, thank you for being here. So, Kirk, you said you teach you're a professor at the post-secondary level. So, I'm just going to be facetious for a second. I would suspect then that you don't give paper and pencil tests because it depends upon how the student showed up a particular day on how they would perform on that. And that would not be any indicator of anything that they know or don't know or an assessment thereof. So to throw that blanket statement out there, I think is inappropriate. Because basically what you're saying is you're throwing all education under the bus. The perspective of paper and pencil not being I'm not saying it's the only, but is an assessment, not the assessment. The definite article there is important in that. But I think it's not appropriate to say that. So that's not valid. That there's no value in a paper and pencil assessment. That's how we do be able to understand and appreciate comprehension. I understand project-based. I've been involved with some of that for 2 or 3 decades with hands-on inquiry-based learning as it relates to science. So it's learning by doing. It's not necessarily learning by reading and rote manipulation of long division and the new math, whatever it's called these days. So just wanted to comment that as people are listening to this, that there's value to paper and pencil assessment as an assessment, not the only assessment. That's all. Thank you, Kirk.
Thank you so much, Senator Palma. Are there any other additional questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none. Kirk, thank you so much for your testimony. Next to testify is going to be Enrique Sanchez, representing BLM Rhode Island PAC and Prov DSA in opposition to the legislation. Enrique, welcome to Senate Finance.
Hey, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Please proceed.
Great, thank you so much. My name is Enrique Sanchez. I'm here representing the BLM RI PAC, Prov DSA, Providence Democratic Socialists of America, and Reclaim RI, and various other leftist organizations throughout the states. I am here also as an educator in the Providence public school system. I am a current substitute teacher at the Juanita Sanchez Educational Complex. I teach material there. I am here in opposition for Senate Bill 373, this bill that would give more funding to public charter schools. I can say as a person of color, as a person involved in the Providence public school system, that we do not need more funding for charter schools in our community, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary folks. We do not need more funding for charter schools or for any sort of privatized education. What these kids need are quality public education, good quality public education, and more funding for our public schools in the school system and throughout the states. Why? Because everyone deserves an opportunity at an education, at a quality education. No one can be left behind. We can't just choose who has better test scores, or better, who has a more potential future in education. We need to oppose any sort of privatized, any sort of lottery pick education that leaves hundreds and thousands of kids, without an opportunity. So yes, as a public school teacher, I do not think that more funding for charter schools is a good idea. This also takes away the funding for public schools. I don't know if folks are aware of the current situation now between the Providence Teachers Union and between Rhode and the Providence School District. It is a tense one. It is not a good one. And then there are folks who come out with these sort of bills, like if there was nothing happening. Please, folks, let's wake up. Let's try to minimize the tension, the situation. Let's move forward with a public school quality education for all students throughout the state. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Enrique. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none. Enrique, thank you so much for your testimony. Next testify is going to be Margaret Knowlton, the Hope Academy, testifying in opposition to the legislation. Margaret, welcome to Senate Finance.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senate Finance Committee members. My name is Margaret Knowlton, and I'm the superintendent of the Hope Academy, which is a small public charter school located in Providence. We currently serve 252 students in K through 6, and by 2023, we will be a school that serves 324 public school students in grades K to 8 from Providence and North Providence. I am speaking in opposition to Senate Bill 373. This bill proposes to allow local school districts to amend their local share of education funding for each public school student to be paid to the charter schools if the local public school outperforms the charter public school. Interesting enough, there is no corresponding provision that the public charter school will receive extra funding if its school outperforms the local public school. Once again, I feel like we seem to be focused on punishing those who dare to do better. We all know that every single charter school does not perform better than their sending district. Each year, the General Assembly is asked to adopt some form of legislation that is anti-public school charters. This takes up an incredible amount of time and energy to weaken a public school model that only educates approximately 6% of the public school students in Rhode Island. 2 years ago, as a result of previously enacted legislation, public school districts were allowed to reduce their tuitions paid to public charter schools based on expenditures that they have and assume public charter schools do not, which does not seem possible as charters are their own independent school districts and have the same cost. This law allows a school district to reduce their tuitions by 7% or higher if they cost out those allowable expenditures. This current school year, Providence Public Schools reduced their tuitions to the Hope Academy by 7%, and North Providence reduced their tuitions greater than 7% for a total loss of revenue of $76,520. As you all know, public charter schools' sole source of funding is this local share and the corresponding state share that follows every public school student. Unlike a local public school district, charters do not have a municipality or taxpayers that they can turn to for help. If Senate Bill 373 becomes law, then public charter schools could be in a situation that they're subject to additional potential financial penalties that no other public school faces. All students, regardless of whether they attend their local public school or a public charter school, are the same. They are simply Rhode Island children who are seeking the best public education that they can find. If the Senate decides to pass Bill 373, then it should be amended to also reward charter public schools that outperform their local non-charter public schools. This will help level the playing field and further incentivize every public school to do better by Rhode Island's children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margaret. We appreciate your testimony. I just have one question, and correct me, please, if I did not hear testimony correctly. I heard you possibly say every year the General Assembly passes an anti-charter public school bill.
No, I said every year they seem to want to.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was want to or actually pass. I know that you mentioned the one, but I'm not sure if there have been any others that were of concern to you in the last 5 to 10 years.
No.
Okay. Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the committee?
No, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, and for your testimony, we do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next to testify is Sarah Anderson, representing herself in opposition. Sarah, welcome to Senate Finance.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Anderson. I'm a parent of 2 students who attend the Providence Public Schools. I'm also a lifelong educator, and I currently work at Blackstone Valley Prep, which is a charter school that would be affected by this bill. I oppose 373 both for my children's sake and for my students' sake. There are 3 things that I really believe in, both as a parent and an educator, where my values come together. One of them is in school choice. I have had school choice for my family, and I believe everybody should have it. I also believe in accountability. I want my children to take standardized assessments because I want to know how they're doing. I want their schools to know how they're doing. And I want their schools to be held accountable to making sure that they are meeting grade level standards. And I want their schools to be reacting to that. This bill, on the surface of it, appears to be of accountability. It appears to be about that. But I believe it's a misplaced and outlandish degree of accountability that actually does not serve the purpose that it is meant to serve of supporting children. It will create a degree of fiscal and enrollment uncertainty, as the previous person testifying explained, that I think will be very dangerous for schools and ultimately take away choices from families. And it also is so much accountability at the financial level. I believe Senator Acosta also spoke about the sort of, we have a renewal process that charters need to go through that is holding schools accountable for having performance that meets a certain bar, and it is also considers performance compared to their sending districts. That accountability, though, in this bill takes that and then essentially hits schools where it hurts in the financial area. And the collateral damage of doing that is actually on the children, who are going to have the very existence of their schools on their backs when they sit down to take a test. And if we're using the state accountability system, we're not just talking about 3rd and 4th and 6th and 7th and 8th graders and high schoolers. We're even talking about children as young as 5 taking the access assessment as kindergartners. And so what this bill does is takes an accountability system and then makes it financial, creates I can't even imagine what sort of perverse incentives when students now are not worth the same amount. And I believe, all schools have integrity and would not want to think of children as being worth more or less, but we're working in a system, and I think the bill just creates a possibility for things that are really ugly and not right for children. And finally, as a parent and as an educator, I believe very deeply in diverse schools. I believe in integration. I believe in bringing children and families together across lines of difference, socioeconomic, town line, racial difference, ethnic difference, language difference. And this bill particularly hurts schools like mine, where I work now, that serve multiple communities. It'll have an adverse effect on efforts to bring students and families together across those lines because it particularly pits different districts against each other. And I think on that point, finally, I do understand the challenge to districts and to charters, everybody, of having enough funding to function and give the students everything we believe that they deserve. And I think one of the problems with this bill in my mind is that it is addressing the fiscal impact of charter schools in such a way that it's actually supporting the suburban districts as opposed to the districts serving the students who are most in need in our state. And if we're going to be making any moves, I believe we need to be making moves that protect the most vulnerable Rhode Island students, and this bill does not do that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for your testimony. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, Sarah, thank you so much. Next to testify is going to be Janie Rodriguez with Stop the Wait RI in opposition. Janie, welcome to Senate Finance.
Good afternoon, Chairman Pearson and members of the Senate Finance Committee. My name is Janie Rodriguez. I live in Pawtucket. I am the founder of Stop the Wait Rhode Island. I'm the mother of two girls, a 6-year-old and 12-year-old. They both attend school at Achievement First. One attends Providence Middle School and the other attends Providence Elementary. As of now, my oldest has been at Achievement First for about 2.5 years, and for the last 14 months she has been remote. I'm calling in to express my strong opposition to Senate Bill 373. This bill is problematic. It seeks to put a testing requirement on Black and brown charter school students in order for them to keep all of their funding. This seems to be yet another attack on public charter schools and another attempt at defunding them. The middle school that my daughter is districted for, only 8% of students are proficient in ELA and only 5% are proficient in math. Where is the testing requirement here? A great education is the foundation for future success. Our children can't wait. My daughter closed her writing gap in a year. She will never be on grade level for math. I advocated for her at her traditional district. I could tell something was wrong. Year after year, they said she was fine. Finally, when she entered her charter school as a 5th grader, she was diagnosed with an arithmetic disability. She finally is receiving the support she needed over the years, and it still takes her much longer than her peers to master a math standard. It took my daughter 5 weeks to master one math standard. At the time, she was receiving a regular math block and an intervention math block during the school day, in addition to receiving after-school tutoring 4 to 5 days a week. It's hard to make up for all of the years she didn't receive the right supports. I worry, would a bill like this force public charter schools to start handpicking kids because no school can operate with half of its funding? Would it make schools like Davies impose more stringent entrance requirements? What type of effect would this have on the Met, a non-traditional high school that offers real-world hands-on learning opportunities through community internships dictated by student passion, an individualized learning experience not available to students in other schools? This bill would force them to take away this opportunity from students who need it the most. S373 directly undermines the progress that Rhode Island has made to improve our schools and school options. It would diminish educational opportunities for Rhode Island kids, restricting families' ability to choose the school that's right for them. School choice is a civil rights issue. It's a justice issue. It shouldn't matter where a child is born or who their parents are. No child should be forced to attend a failing school, and every child deserves access to a great one. The ability to exercise school choice and select a school option right for them should not be a privilege afforded only to some. Every family, no matter their race, ethnicity, or income, should have strong school options. There is no perfect schooling model. There is no one-size-fits-all. Everyone benefits from options, especially students. As a parent, it is difficult to convey the desperation parents feel when they are fighting for their children to have a future. When your child can't even write a proper sentence, what type of future are they being prepared for? What type of jobs would they have access to? You wouldn't understand unless you too have spent countless hours trying to support your child at home, following up with teachers, taking time off from work month after month to attend school meetings, only to do it all over again the following year with little to no progress, year after year. Public charter schools offer families a choice that can be life-changing, encouraging students of all ages that they can be college graduates and putting them on a path to reach those heights. Free public charter schools are public schools. We are receiving a record level of funding for education, and we should be radically reimagining what education looks like, centering student needs and building 21st century classrooms. I strongly urge the committee to reject this bill. Thank you for your time.
Janie, thank you so much for your testimony. I just have a question on a couple things that you mentioned, and I apologize if maybe paraphrasing a bit here, but I did hear you say, I think, this would take opportunity away for students who most need it. I'm a little bit concerned and confused by your comment, given that the intent of the bill is to ensure that the seats are going to students who are coming from lower performing schools. Students moving from lower performing schools to higher performing charters would be a good thing. Students leaving high performing schools to go to lower performing charter schools would only take seats for students that would have the opportunity to come from a lower performing school. So I'm curious as to why that comment, and perhaps not understanding the bill, or if there's some angle there that we're not seeing.
The way that the bill is written, it doesn't specifically state exact, well, it gives different options, like are we going to compare the individual score back to which, especially a lot of our charter schools receive students from different, and in particular that statement I'm referencing was in particular to a
Janie, I apologize, your connection is breaking up just a little bit there. We probably lost you for the last 20 seconds or so. Not sure if maybe you can move to a slightly different location, and we didn't quite hear your answer.
So the way that the bill is written, it doesn't particularly say exactly what the measure is, and I think Senator Acosta spoke to that at the beginning of this hearing. So that's one area there, but my concern in terms of that statement was referencing the school. I previously worked at the Met High School 30 years ago, and I particularly remember a student where they read very well. So it's really hard to catch up with grades when they have not the education that they should have for the last 10 years. And then to put a price on a particular student's head, so then you're essentially, you're making schools pick and choose because you're saying that not every kid has the same dollar amount.
So, Janie, I thank you for that. I would point you to page 2, line 7 of the legislation that says, performance shall be defined pursuant to 16-97.1-1, which lays out the accountability standards that RIDE produces. Are you familiar with the school report cards and the star ranking systems?
Yes.
And that, when you said it doesn't define those, that's part of the performance rankings that were there. Would you agree that a student leaving a 5-star school to go to a 3-star school or a 2-star school would not be the best use, but rather having students that were maybe in a 1-star school going to a 3-star school?
I think that it depends on a particular student. Again, an example from the Met High School, we had students there from Barrington. In terms of an academically excellent school, we both know which school would fit the bill. But that school in Barrington wasn't giving that child what they needed so they could thrive. So then that school wouldn't be academically excellent for that child.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize there. I'm not sure if all the audience lost some of the audio there as well. But I do appreciate you answering those questions, Janie, and for your testimony. Are there questions or comments from any member of the committee? Hearing none. Janie, thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it. Next to testify is Joseph Fink, representing himself in opposition. Joseph, welcome to Senate Finance.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Senator Pearson and the Finance Committee. My name is Joseph Fink. I am a resident of Providence, and I'm the current kindergarten and first grade academic dean at Achievement First Illuminar. I am testifying in strong opposition to Senate Bill 373. and for a couple of reasons. The first off, I think Ride having more oversight over charter schools and their results, I think, make a lot of sense. I think charter schools should serve their purpose, which is to give and help scholars achieve academic success in whatever charter school it is. So I think having increased oversight on standards for charter schools makes sense. But it is, in my opinion, a bit dystopian to ask kids, to be putting kids against kids, comparing kids, individual children, and making the economic viability of their school determined by their standardized tests. And the educational world is moving away from standardized tests. So to say that the standardized test and the score of one child depends on, that is what the dollars from the state going to that school, I just think doesn't make sense. And, at our school, we have the results that would not, impact us in this way currently. But I just don't think it's right for kids or for schools, for equity, for leading for racial justice, for any of those things, for this bill to continue. Thank you for hearing my testimony, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, thank you so much, Joseph, for your testimony. We appreciate it. Next to testify is Maria Hernandez, representing herself in opposition. Maria, welcome to Senate Finance.
Hi, how you doing?
Very good. Please proceed.
Yes. Yes, my name is Maria Hernandez. I'm from Providence. I've lived here for the most part of my life. And I'm kind of against this, what they're trying to do with the schools, because as I grew up, I didn't have the opportunity as what my kids have now. I got 4 kids. But the first one, my oldest one, she was in all regular school throughout her middle until she got into high school, because that's when she got accepted to a charter school, and that's when we found out how far behind she was in school, which is a tremendous amount. And up to now, she is struggling for her to, be on track of her high school. And my second daughter, she was taken out from a regular public school to this charter school where when she was in 5th grade, she got accepted. She was actually 3 levels below, which she was basically in 5th grade, but in a 3rd grade level learning. So I feel like this is very important for our kids to continue doing, because as parents, we want the best for them. And as the help that they need, they're giving it to them there. There's nowhere else they're giving it out. And I understand that they say that they should keep the other ones, but then if they do, they're going to be given the help that they need. I didn't know my daughter had ADHD until she was in high school. That's where we kind of the school actually convinced every other teacher, saying, we need to find out why she's not learning right, why she's so far behind. So that's when we kind of took all the steps that we needed for her to realize, the teachers to realize exactly what she needed. But they gave all the help that they needed. When I asked for the help, when she was in 5th grade, starting from 5th grade, I started asking for help to see what was going on. Nobody did anything. The schools always said, yeah, we're going to get back to you, we're going to get back to you. And so she was in middle school. I never got any response of what was going on or what she needed. So that's why I feel like all this is very important for us to keep, to keep on doing, because all these teachers are doing everything. When they say these are our kids, that's when they really say they are going to help on everything. Now, all my other 2 little ones, as soon as I was able to put them into charter schools, they were accepted. And they are doing well, and I'm happy, because I didn't have the help that I needed when I was in a regular school, and my parents couldn't, we didn't even know they existed. So for all this, I feel like it's very important. I mean, I don't know, that's everything I have to say.
Thank you so much, Maria. We do appreciate your testimony. Are there any questions or comments from Maria? Hearing none. Thank you, Maria, so much. Next to testify is Georgina Sandoval, representing herself in opposition. Georgina, welcome to Senate Finance.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak up. My name is Georgina Sandoval, and I'm calling to express my opposition to Senate Bill 373. The reason that I'm opposing this bill is because it is designed to start public charter schools. Charter schools are offering a better education for our community, and public charter schools are public schools. They are open to all. These schools meet all the highest standards of the performance, and they are reevaluated every 5 years, And I just want to say that they should, instead of trying to promote to punish a charter school, to look for a solution for the broken school system that we have. Thank you for the opportunity to speak up today.
Thank you so much, Georgina. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, thank you so much. Next to test. Will the committee please stand at ease? Thank you for the committee's patience. Our last individual to testify on this legislation is Joe Pataglia from the Met School in opposition. Joe, welcome to Senate Finance.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman Pearson and members of the committee for an opportunity to speak. I'm the curriculum director and the CTE director at the Met School state-operated CTE Center. Just wanted to point out a couple of pieces related to this bill. From an educational and legal perspective, the Met and Davies are different from charter schools. The Met and Davies are specifically designed and enabled pursuant to 1645-1 to fulfill a particular need in the state, not particular measures of particular other districts. The Met and Davies and charter schools are similar in that they are their own local educational agencies, which stand alone and are not components of municipal school districts, and that they are funded through the state and local aid similarly. As such, these schools are included in the same statute to ensure the fair funding formula applies to these programs that are included in this statute. However, as mentioned, they are very different types of LEAs, serving or fulfilling different needs in the public education arena. If enacted, this bill could create a hardship of up to a 50% reduction that would equal up to $2.44 million loss. In light of these facts, and these significant changes are included in the statute that otherwise pertains to the Met, it causes us concern. We don't think that was the intention of this committee, but we're compelled to raise this conflict and offer to discuss it further. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joe. We appreciate your testimony, and I do believe, though the title of the statute includes the Met, I don't believe the language, the title is Charter Schools, Davies, and the Met, and then the language in the actual statute only reads charter schools, so I'm not sure that it does apply to the Met, but I thank you for raising that concern, and we can certainly do some additional due diligence there.
Thank you very much.
Does not appear we have any questions, so thank you so much, Joe, for your testimony. We do appreciate it. That does conclude our testimony on Senate Bill 373. I see a motion from Senator Palma to hold, second by Senator Sosnowski. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma. Senator DePalma, yes. Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano. Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny. Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
7 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. For the sake of time, just for the committee and those that are watching, we do have a hard stop today from the committee time at 5 p.m. So in the interest of time, I'm going to move through a series of bills that do not have any witnesses signed up to just attempt to dispense with them in an expeditious fashion so we can attempt to continue and complete those who've signed up to testify. The first bill that has no witnesses signed up to testify is Senate Bill 45 by myself, an act related to state affairs and government. State invested in Rhode Island Fellowship, expands the Wavemaker Fellowship Program to include public school teachers in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics into the program. This is something we've worked on, and actually Governor Raimondo had placed it in her budget last year. But the nature of a skinny budget from the pandemic meant we did not adopt it, but I do look forward to being able to do it this year. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, Senator Sosnowski makes a motion to hold, second by Senator DePalma. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Cano. Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny. It's not there. Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Senator Paolino, would you like to be recorded in the affirmative on the motion to hold for Senate Bill 351, 366, and 582?
I would, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
So ordered. Next, we will take up Senate Bill 222 by Senator Felag. We have no witnesses assigned up to testify. Senator Felag.
Yes, this is an annual bill that I put in. I think it's a very important bill because, as you all know, we have 39 cities and states, and we should be promoting regionalization. I mean, we talk about it, and certain communities have regionalized their school districts, and they did receive some regional bonus to begin with. But as we move forward, there is no incentive for those communities to remain regionalized. And I think it's imperative that we put that little carrot out there to encourage these communities to stay regionalized and encourage other communities to regionalize. And so this little small token of appreciation for regionalizing of 2% really doesn't amount to much in the budget. For instance, Bristol Warren, they're down to $11 million in aid, and so 2% would be $220,000. And if you take the encompassing all the other districts, it would amount to a little over $600,000 a year. So it's not really a large sum of money, but what it does is to incentivize other communities to regionalize, that they would be there on a yearly basis, and provide some mechanism for those communities that regionalize to have an opportunity to expend that money.
Thank you so much, Senator Felag. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, Senator Felag.
Well, I'd move for passage, but you'd probably block that, so motion to hold.
Motion to hold by Senator Felag, second by Senator DePalma. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Good try.
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano. Senator.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
8 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clerk. The next bill we'll take up is Senate Bill 300 by myself, an act relating to taxation, state investment around Waybaker Fellowship. Repeals the provisions of the fellowship program and establishes a tax credit. Essentially what this bill would do would turn the program from rather an application process to one that you would fill out via your taxes, and would also make it open to all eligible taxpayers with student loan debt. Again, an opportunity for us to continue to retain college graduates here in Rhode Island. We have no one signed up to testify. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, Senator Sosnowski makes a motion to hold, second by Senator DePalma. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
8 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next bill we'll take up is Senate Bill 359 by myself, an act relating to taxation, personal income tax. Would allow a deduction from federal gross income for interest payments and outstanding student loans. Again, additional initiative and incentive that we could do here in Rhode Island to retain students who have graduates who have student loans and help them through. There are no
motion to hold.
Senator Felag makes a motion to hold, second by Senator Sosnowski. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino. Senator Paolino, yes. Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes. Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
8 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next bill we'll take up is Senate Bill 585 by Senator Raptakis, an act relating to education, foundation level school support, and provide that in determining local school aid, the state would annually provide each community no less than the amount equal to the aid given in the prior year. There are no witnesses to sign up testify, and Senator Raptakis is not here. Senator Felag makes a motion to hold, second by Senator Sosnowski. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Senator Murray.
Yes.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
8 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next on our agenda, we will take up Senate Bill 292. It is by Senator Casada, a joint resolution making an appropriation of $100,000 to Year Up Providence. I did have a chance to speak with Senator Casada earlier. She had another committee to attend to, but is in strong support of this and certainly of the mission of Year Up. We do have one individual signed up to testify, and it is Bridget Newman from the organization Year Up in support of the legislation. Bridget, welcome to Senate Finance.
Thank you for having me, Chair Pearson and members of the committee.
My name is Bridget Newman, Associate Director of Development at Year Up, Rhode Island, and I'm speaking on behalf of the organization today. I'll share a brief statement and then happy to take questions from the committee members. For too long, the young adults we serve have been considered social liabilities, but we know at Year Up they are economic assets. Our model is simple, but it takes hard work, dedication, and resources. We train young people previously disconnected from careers in higher education, and we place them in an internship at one of our state's top companies like Citizens, Fidelity, Amica, and Lifespan. At the same time, we provide our partners with access to a talent pool previously untapped. We serve as a critical talent pipeline for entry-level middle-skill jobs. Even amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic effects on the job market, we still saw 90% positive outcomes in 2020 with our graduates earning over $18 an hour. We were able to match every eligible student with an internship this past year, which demonstrates the value our partners see in these young adults. I believe you'll also see that in some of the letters that were submitted in written testimony. In 2021, we will serve 160 students. We will provide them with 6 months of intensive training in IT, customer service, project management, as well as professional soft skills like time management and feedback. They will then go on to implement those skills in a 6-month internship. Throughout this time, students will receive wraparound support in the form of a staff coach, on-site social workers, and a weekly stipend. We know that this holistic approach to job training is critical to our students' success and our organization's outcome. We work tirelessly to remove barriers and provide the necessary resources so that students can focus on their training and gain employment that will create financial stability for themselves and their families for a lifetime. We respectfully ask that the state invest $100,000 in a job training program that works and meets the needs of Rhode Island employers. Please join us in our mission to close the opportunity divide and ensure that our economic recovery includes everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bridget. We appreciate your testimony. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I have a...
Senator DePalma?
Thank you. Bridget, just a question regarding the Year Up. I was looking at, while we're talking here, the some of the eligibility requirements, and it shows that 18 to 26-year-old temporary age expansion. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe you've expanded it to 26 during this period, but can you first talk to the age category?
Yes,
and then
Senator.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes, that's exactly right. Typically, we serve 18 to 24-year-olds. In 2020, we expanded it to 26 in an effort to recruit more students and to meet the demand when we saw that many of that older age group were facing reduced wage hours and unemployment.
Okay. What's your total budget right now, Bridget?
$4.4 million.
Okay, so this isn't much, but the question is, if they're 18-year-olds, they could potentially, they need to have a high school graduate or GED, so they could go to CCRI and get some credentialing there or associate's degree as part of the Rhode Island Promise program.
That's true, yes, and many of our young adults that we serve have had experience at CCRI. For some of them, they are not able to persist for either financial reasons or they don't feel as supported in those environments as they do in Year Up in terms of the wraparound and the social services that we provide, as well as the internship is really one of our differentiators as well. And we do, we work closely with CCRI. Our students receive college credit recommendations for the classes that they take with us. And we have an MOU with CCRI where our students can very easily transfer those credits to CCRI afterwards and then complete their degrees.
I guess just one comment. I do have one quick follow-up question, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Please proceed.
So, Bridget, with regards to, there should be a monetary impact because Rhode Island Promise is the last dollar scholarship, and if you need money, you get all of it, right? Or it's Pell Grants, or it's the last dollar scholarship. So if you have nothing, basically, it would pay for all of it. Let's put that aside for a second. It almost I remember I must have had a conversation about this last year. I think there's a niche for you with what your rep does, I guess the challenge would be is how best to marry that with the Rhode Island Promise program at CCRI. Presumably we move it forward as a, we memorialize it. It's going to go to the floor on Tuesday because we passed it yesterday at Senate Education. So just trying to feel, it's $100,000 and obviously you're getting your money some other places. So how do we ensure we're maximizing the investment with regards to what we're providing to Rhode Island Promise and also what you're doing on your end? So, thank you very much.
Sure. Yes, thank you for the question. I would say that Europe it's an intensive program and it's somewhat accelerated. It's less than a year. And for our students, they are all low income. And so they do not have the luxury of going to school full time for the most part. And so what we provide is the professional experience and the foot in the door with a corporation that allows them to have economic mobility and move forward in their career while also pursuing higher education.
Okay. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you so much, Senator Palma. Are there any other questions for Bridget? Hearing.
Chairman?
Yes, Senator Cano.
Thank you so much. I'd like to just offer a comment. I have been a witness of the Year Up program for quite some time. My employer actually do take some of the interns that they had, and it is just amazing how this program give the opportunity to a lot of students that actually do need the help, and it really closed the gaps and remove barriers for students to attain education while attaining a great job training. So I just want to offer my support and say thank you so much for doing this, and this is just a little investment for the work that they do. So I urge my colleagues also to support it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, thank you so much, and thank you, Bridget, for your testimony and for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you so much. Take care.
That concludes our testimony on Senate Bill 292. Senator Paolino makes a motion to hold, second by Senator De Palma. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator De Palma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski. 8 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next on our agenda, we will bring Senate Bill 377 by Senator Casada, a joint resolution making appropriation for funding of a nonprofit agency, Inspiring Minds Incorporated, to benefit Providence Elementary School students. It allocates $50,000 from the general fund to this nonprofit to train volunteers, provide personalized attention to Providence Elementary School students. First witness to testify on this piece of legislation is Melissa Emeny from Inspiring Minds in support. Melissa, welcome to Senate Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to provide testimony today in support of Senate Bill 377. My name is Melissa Emedy, and I'm the Executive Director of Inspiring Minds. Our mission is to empower Providence students to succeed in school and life by providing them with trusted relationships, tutoring, and mentoring by inspired community members. We are called upon to help regularly and often by Providence teachers and schools. This year, in addition to our tutoring and mentoring programs, we've distributed coats and creativity kits, delivered meals and supplies to students' homes, supported families to complete statewide family surveys, and provided students who are experiencing homelessness with the materials and supplies necessary to reduce barriers to attending school. To make this happen, Inspiring Minds recruits, screens, trains, and supports more than 600 volunteers annually. Those volunteers gave more than 15,000 hours to 1,400 students last year, an economic benefit of over $300,000. While many of our volunteers are committed community members, retired teachers, local businessmen and women, the overwhelming majority of our volunteers are future teachers, attending Rhode Island's colleges and universities, many of whom are rising teachers of color. We practice a straightforward principle in all of our programs. Relationships matter. Every interaction matters. Our volunteers are champions who work side by side with students, cheering them on. We know our students are resilient and capable learners. We see them. We provide a listening ear and attention, much needed attention, to students that keep them engaged in their learning. We contribute to a warm and welcoming school climate where children are respected and honored. We know our students, and we have high expectations for them. And we're getting results. I encourage you to check out our website for all the facts and figures, but I'll tell you what I hear. Just last week, we received an email from a second grade teacher in the Virtual Learning Academy. He said, "One of the bright spots for us this year is the number of students who have increased multiple reading levels after reading to our amazing volunteers. Thank you." A parent wrote in a recent letter of support, "I feel that even though the Summer Bridge program was offered virtually, we still were given so much support to help guide our children in the learning process and prepare them for kindergarten." And a volunteer wrote in a recent reflection, "Another great session. My student did a great job reading. It seems like a great improvement from when we first met. I'm so proud of them." Next year, we anticipate an even greater need. We know that students will need additional supports to recover from the pandemic. The turnaround will continue to challenge the administration and our teachers. Inspiring Minds would like to be there for more students, and this appropriation will help us be there. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much, Melissa. We appreciate your testimony. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, thank you so much, Melissa. Next to testify is Sharon Hendrickson, also from Inspiring Minds, in support of the legislation. Okay. It appears, actually, as in earlier, there are several people that haven't been able to answer the phone when we've called, so we will conclude our testimony on Senate Bill 377 at this time. Senator Sosnowski makes a motion to hold, second by Senator DePalma. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next item we will take up is Senate Bill 574 by myself, an act relating to education, professional development, and investment fund. Provides a one-time appropriation of $1 million and an annual appropriation thereafter to Rhode Island College, providing teachers at no cost to them certification and education programs who teach students who don't speak English. This legislation was inspired by the demand that we have throughout all of our school districts across the state, but especially in Providence for teachers who are certified in English language learners. And as we know, Rhode Island College has a fantastic program for this certification, and certainly is an institution that we would like to support and ensure that they are able to capitalize from offering this course. We do have one individual signed up to testify, but before I go to that individual, are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Senator DePalma.
Very briefly. I've talked about this in the past, and I know we have, I'm a big fan of categoricals in some areas, clearly in this area, and we've heard experts talk to us in the past with regards to the English as a second language, that, or for English language learners, that there's a period of time where the training is needed, intense training of N number of years, and I recall the numbers, but I'm not going to say them here today because I'm not an expert to whether that's even the right number or not, but one thing I think, should we move forward with this, is tying some type of, I'll say, measure or metric that ensures, and that's what I think is invaluable about categoricals, is you can measure the output. We know what we're putting in. How are we measuring the output with regards to ensuring the students that we want to have gain English language proficiency are in fact doing that, and to the greatest extent possible, addressing the needs that they have. And I think from a funding formula perspective, categorical, we as the General Assembly have been a little bit remiss in not tying some type of exit criteria measures or metrics to that. So I'd like to see, if we do move forward with this, some type of means. Granted, this is on the way in, but we're really talking about students on the way out. That maybe it goes somewhere else, but we should have, and maybe it's more tied to the categorical. But since this is associated with training teachers for English language learning, that I thought it'd be appropriate to bring up. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. We do have one individual signed up to testify. It is Erin Papa, representing herself in support. Erin, welcome to Senate Finance.
Hello.
Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you for having me, Chairman Pearson and members of the committee. My name is Erin Papa. I am representing the Coalition for Multilingual Rhode Island in support of Senate Bill 574 and the intent of the committee or the sponsors of the bill to help us to prepare more teachers for multilingual learners. The Coalition for Multilingual Rhode Island is supporting a number of bills this year that would help us to create more support for building more multilingual programs with a focus on expanding dual language and bilingual programs, which we know from years of research are the best program model for English learners. And right now we only have about 1 to 2% of our multilingual learners in those programs. Most of them are in English-only ESL type programs. One of the largest barriers that we see is that the number of courses and the cost of tuition is really one of the main barriers for teachers to pursue that certification. So we are appreciative of the sponsors for putting this bill in, and we hope that it will be supported and that there will be just generally more support for helping us develop a more comprehensive plan for growing these programs in Rhode Island. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin, for your testimony, and also thank you for your work with the coalition. I certainly agree, and I think many of us are doing everything we can to try to support getting more multilingual teachers into our classrooms to help support those students, and it really takes a force of many different areas. And I know Senator Cano's worked on this issue a lot. Senator Murray, Senator Casada have all pushed in this direction, and I'm sure those are a lot of the bills that you'll be testifying on. So thank you so much for your work.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, thank you so much, Erin. We do appreciate it. And that does conclude our testimony that we have on Senate Bill 574. Senator Sosnowski makes a motion to hold, second by Senator DePalma. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you so much. And Senator Seveny, while we have you, would you like to be recorded on the motion to hold for Senate Bill 45, 222, 300, 359, and 585?
Yes. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
So ordered. Next on our agenda will be Senate Bill number 577 by Senator Cano. An act relating to education provides $2 million to support comprehensive and effective after-school summer learning and workforce development programs for students in grades kindergarten through 12. Senator Cano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. It is an honor and a pleasure for me to introduce this bill. I first like to commend the Rhode Island After School Network, all the advocates, families, and parents, teachers, and students that are very supportive of these bills that you probably will hear from after the testimony that I will give. This bill provides funding for learning and enrichment opportunities outside of the normal school day for students in grades K to 12. It will require the General Assembly to appropriate $2 million annually to invest in high quality programming, professional development, and workforce development. Please remember this word, invest. I think it's an investment that is so necessary. Entities or groups such as nonprofits, local governments, universities, and local education agencies would have access to this funding through a competitive request for proposal process. Priority for awarding these funds would go to programs that support our most vulnerable populations, economically disadvantaged families, differently abled students, and English language learners, and offer programs and services designed to complement a student's regular academic program, including arts and music, technology, and counseling. This bill would also require that RAI report to the General Assembly and the governor every year on the progress of this program. I would say that as someone that is really someone that believes in after school programs and the impacts, after I got out of college, many of you may not know, I worked for the Providence After School Alliance, and I was able to see firsthand that the impact that after school programs had and the meaningful relationships that the students have with the staff in these hands-on programs. I do believe that this is a very needed investment. I hope that we can make it this year because we've been really behind on providing some funding for after school programming. And I think that the coalition will definitely explain better how they came into getting this number. And I just urge you all to support it. And I just again want to thank all the members of the coalition. And with hopefully this year we'll make it happen. Let's invest in after school programming and enrichment opportunities outside the normal school day, especially because if the pandemic have shown us there's going to be a lot of loss of learning because of what happened, academically with the students and especially for disadvantaged families. I think that this will make a difference. So thank you so much for your attention. I'll be happy to take any questions, and I urge you to prioritize this bill.
Thank you so much, Senator Cano. Are there any questions or comments for members of the committee? From members of the committee? Hearing none, we do have several witnesses signed up to testify. I would just ask the witnesses to please be as brief as you can and please try not to be repetitive. Again, the committee has a hard stop at 5 and we're just trying to make sure we can fit everyone in. Our first witness to testify is Ayana Melvin with United Way of Rhode Island After School Network and Support. Ayana, welcome to the Senate Finance.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you to the rest of the Senate Finance Committee for listening to my testimony this evening. I really appreciate it. I am in support of Senate Bill 577 that would support $2 million in our state's budget to help after-school summer and workforce development programs and make an investment in our young people and in our youth across the state. Our after-school programs have been high-quality programs that have been in existence for over 25 to 30 years, using metrics that measure their high quality through nationally recognized tools and through after-school networks like the one that I lead, the Rhode Island After School Network, and the 50 state networks that are funded by the Mott Foundation and here locally funded by United Way of Rhode Island. Right now, here's what it looks like. Our after-school programs and our summer programs and our workforce development programs that are critical for our young people have 59,000 youth here in Rhode Island on a waiting list. That's out of 150,000 youth. Those youth are on a waiting list waiting to get into an after-school program. They want to continue learning after the bell, we call it. So when the final bell rings or when the dismissal happens,
we're turning youth away that want to stay after and continue their learning, continue their hands-on experiences and opportunities that we know we can offer. But we need state investment. We get investment federally, we get investment through philanthropic dollars, but that's not enough, as you can see, because of the wait list that we have. What is out-of-school time learning? What is after school? What does this mean? Well, we know that youth are in school and they're at home, and then the other percentage of the time, they're out of school, and that's 80% of the time. We know that during that time, if they aren't participating in something, that they have significant learning loss, and we've seen that during COVID-19. Also during COVID-19, from the after-school summer and workforce development programs, we've seen everybody step up and provide food security, provide multi-language services for parents and families and youth, and helping them navigate through this new world. And we've also seen programs provide in-person, hybrid versions of digital and in-person and then digital programming to keep youth interested and engaged and keep them having a sense of belonging, is what the youth have reported to us they feel when they're in these programs offered here in our wonderful state. So I'm asking for you all to support our bill to fund after-school time programs, because if we can show youth that we are investing in them, I believe that they'll continue to believe in themselves. We also need to take the youth off the waiting list, and what it means is that for every one child in an after-school program, there are 3 more waiting to get in. And so we want to provide opportunities mitigate what has happened due to learning loss because of COVID. If youth are in these programs and can do something hands-on, it's going to be that much better for their future and for our outcomes. According to recent studies, it's shown that for every dollar that's invested in the after-school programs and summer programs in Rhode Island, we have a $3.50 return on investment. So it's just smart. It's smart to invest in our youth in this mode. We need to help the schools. We need to help the school day. They can't do it all. And we know that if we have state investment, that will be one integral part and critical part of helping the young people here in Rhode Island. So I hope that you support the bill, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Senator Cano.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say thank you to Courtney for the amazing testimony and for all the work that the United Way has done, and to all the staff that really have dedicated a lot of time to make sure that this bill was the way that it's drafted. And so I just want to say thank you so much. The impact that you make every day and your staff is really a treasure to our state. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Senator. Does not appear there are any other additional comments or questions from members of the committee. So, Ayanna, thank you so much for joining this afternoon and for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next to testify is going to be Corinne McCamey, representing herself in support of the legislation. Corinne, welcome to Senate Finance.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm speaking for the bill.
Please proceed.
I'm Dr. Corinne McCamey, and I'm the founding co-director of the Youth Development Program at Rhode Island College. And today I'd just like to tell you about my kids. When I founded the Youth Development Program, my mother-in-law asked me, "You teach about leadership and after-school programs, and yet you're sending your own kids to after-school programs? Why are you outsourcing this? You do such a good job yourself." But that's the point. Enrolling my children in after-school programs provided them opportunities to work with trusted adults who were not me, and who connect with other young, and allowed them to connect with other young people. Out-of-school time programs have helped my children become their best selves, and especially throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. The kids my children met at ages 3 and 5 have kept them sane now as they're 13 and 15 and throughout the lockdown. My son earned a black belt in after-school Kung Fu, and he used those skills to teach himself how to box during lockdown. My daughter ran virtually with her soccer team. My kids are multiracial. They're white and Chinese, and they spent a lot of time in weekend and summer Chinese language programs. These positive identity, culture, and language programs have given them resilience as they've watched and responded to racist Asian attacks that they've seen in the media and in their own family members' experiences. Out-of-school time has helped my children become their best selves. It's not an afterthought. It's not simply a longer school day. All young people, regardless of income, need and deserve out-of-school time. We must provide consistent state funding for high-quality before school, after school, and summer school learning. Thank you for letting me speak today.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We do appreciate it. It does not appear we have any questions or comments from members of the committee. So thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Next to testify will be Paige Clausius Parks, representing Rhode Island Kids Count in support. Paige, welcome to Senate Finance.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Rhode Island Kids Count would like to voice its strong support for Senate Bill 577. High-quality, organized after-school, summer, and out-of-school time programs improve the supervision and safety of young people, promote positive social skills, and with the sufficient dosage can improve student achievement. We all know schools are extremely important, but they only cover 20% of a child's day. What children do out of the school time really matters for their success in school and in life. However, in most communities, there are not enough high-quality, affordable after-school and summer programs to serve all the children who need them and could benefit from them. Resources are needed to provide more access for communities. There's also a substantial gap between high-quality after-school and out-of-school time opportunities for children with low-income families compared to the opportunities available for youth from higher-income families. And higher-income families spend almost 7 times more on enrichment activities, and this difference contributes to persistent gaps we see in student outcomes. Our out-of-school time providers have provided crucial services to our students and families throughout this pandemic. That's included assistance with academics, helping to get families connected to technology, addressing food insecurities for families. And because of this, I think we've all learned through this pandemic that we need to continue to view our out-of-school time providers as a part of the essential pieces of our system that support students and families and academic outcomes. State investments, as Senator Cano stated, this is an investment, and we really urge the General Assembly and this committee to pass this important legislation. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm happy to take some questions.
Thank you so much, Paige, for your testimony. It does not appear we have any questions or comments from members of the committee, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next testify will be Courtney Nicolato, representing the United Way of Rhode Island in support of the legislation. Courtney, welcome to Senate Finance.
Thank you, Chairman Pearson. Thank you for considering this important bill. The United Way of Rhode Island is in strong support of Senate Bill 577 from Senator Cano. You know, I'd like to take a moment for all of us to just sit back and think about what after-school programs we had as a kid. Think about those moments where we grew, we were able to explore, we were able to learn, be mentored, and learn those critical leadership skills that are pivotal to us as humans and who we are today. This bill will be focused on a dedicated funding stream to support Rhode Island children and youth who are desperately in need of this type of program. After school and out of school time programs promote health and wellness with a robust family engagement strategies. And what's really important to know is that Rhode Island young learners spend more than 80% of their time outside of the classroom. Yet we all know that learning does not end when the last school bell rings. That's why Rhode Island's high-quality, out-of-school time learning programs are so critical to Rhode Island kids. The challenge is too many Rhode Island children do not have access to these programs today. In fact, 59,000 of the 150,000 kiddos in our community do not have access. That is because we are vastly underinvesting in out-of-school time learning programs specifically for our kids. Additionally, it's important to note that out-of-school time learning programs are critical, especially to Rhode Island's Black, Indigenous, and people of color, their children and their families who are lower income.
The vast majority of those 59,000 kids who do not have access today, who want access, are our BIPAC children. We hear this every day, not only from the families, but from those that call 211, our 24-hour call center and referral line. We hear that not only with housing affordability being a continued issue, out-of-school time learning and access is too. Out-of-school time learning has proven results and outcomes. The leaders of tomorrow learn from out-of-school time programs today. We also know that there's significant evidence that shows that kids that participate in out-of-school time learning are less likely to go to prison, more likely to graduate high school, and more likely to go to college. Over the last decade, United Way has seen this. We have collaborated with numbers of school districts, the great, amazing partners and local businesses to deliver programs in 13 communities around our state. We have to do a better job utilizing and leveraging out-of-school time learning as a core fundamental of the educational system here in Rhode Island. So United Way respectfully requests that you support Senate Bill 577 and urge you to continue to support our children and youth in the hours well after school and outside of the home. Thank you so much for the time and the consideration.
Thank you so much, Courtney. We appreciate your testimony. It does not appear we have any questions or comments from members of the committee, so thank you so much.
Chairman.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Cano.
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure that I correct myself and say thank you to Courtney, but also to Ayana. You both are amazing champions, and call on behalf of the United Way and the Rhode Island After School Network and everything that you guys do. I juggle between two committees, and I wanted to make sure that you both know how much I appreciate it, and all the people that are calling in today. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Senator. Next testify is going to be Marlene Guai with United Way, also in support. Marlene, welcome to Senate Finance.
Thank you so very much for having me. I just want to take a moment to say thank you. You've heard from a few people from the United Way, and I am an additional person. I am the program officer for child development and the two-gen approach at the United Way. In addition to that formal role, I am a very active member of the Rhode Island After School Network, a certified teacher, a parent, and a very vocal member of my Woonsocket community. I've also spent decades volunteering and supporting family engagement and educational initiatives in our state. One of my many hats that I wear is to manage the Summer Learning Initiative at the United Way of Rhode Island. In this role, I have supported programs across the state and providing high-quality summer learning that have been the model for the nation. Many of these programs rely on the generosity of funders to keep their doors open. Our programs are offering 6 weeks of full-time experiential learning opportunities where youth have their voice and choice. It is free to families. It is focused on making sure our youth feel safe, included, welcome, and thriving. Through this model, we have supported both social emotional learning and academic enrichment. These community-based organizations that we support rely on funders like us to ensure programs are available and accessible because unlike our surrounding New England states, there's no direct funding support on a state level for these high-quality programs. These programs have demonstrated over and over again that they have improved the academic and social emotional growth of their youth who attend and especially have strong impact with our BIPOC, low-income, multilanguage learners, and differently abled youth, and also have direct correlations with helping to mitigate that school-to-prison pipeline. This pandemic has highlighted the need for wraparound support and programs and resources for our communities, families, and our youth. Our out-of-school time and summer programs stepped up this past year to fill in major gaps, whether it was food, technology help, or academic support. We as a state are thinking larger about what it means to educate our youth. Meanwhile, both public and private sectors are highlighting the importance and need to have comprehensive, high-quality, youth-centric, accessible programming available to all youth in Rhode Island. Currently, there is no specific line item dedicated for those programs. This legislation will be the beginning of acknowledging and funding this much-needed programming for our youth. Prior to the pandemic, we had space for only 1/3 of the youth who wanted to attend a program, leaving a very long waiting list. We need to prioritize to have long-term sustainable funding to support our youth and the goals that the state itself has identified. The new areas of focus from our Rhode Island LEAP Task Force clearly asks for programming for all Rhode Island youth during the summer, and that will not happen without serious, consistent funding streams to support and need for our own education system has clearly stated. From an economic standpoint, both immediately so families can get back to work and long-term as our youth have job skills and academic support to grow into active members of our communities as adults. This funding makes sense and is a good investment. After school and summer programs are and have always been an essential part of our communities. Right now, all of you could remember a time that you have memories from your own experiences, whether it was a summer camp, a club, a team, a wide range of other programming. These are the programs that you remember fondly, where you made friends, where you felt safe, where you had fun, where you grew. Our youth deserve the same experiences. Our programs have stepped up this past year to support our youth. It's time we as a state acknowledge this work and invest in this resource to support our young people grow and thrive in our state. Thank you so much for your time and consideration of Senate Bill 577. I hope that you invest in the youth as our future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marlene. We appreciate your testimony. We do not have any questions from the committee, so thank you so much. Next to testify is going to be Victoria Ressler with Rhode Island College in support. Victoria, welcome to Senate Finance. We appreciate your testimony.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I appreciate the chance to testify this afternoon in support of Bill 0577. My name is Victoria Ressler. I'm an assistant professor at RIC, where I direct our Youth Development Master's program that prepares students to lead and research and innovate in out-of-school time settings. I'm a mother to two elementary-age children, and today I'm speaking in support of Senate Bill 577, primarily as a board member of Youth in Action, which is an incredible OST organization in South Providence. Out-of-school funding is popular, it's necessary, and it's smart. You know the statistics about how many parents support public investment in OST. You know that the demand far exceeds our capacity. There's more than almost 60,000 children in Rhode Island currently waiting for a spot. And you know that every dollar invested in OST returns $3.50 to our state economy. What you may not know is this crucial role that OST orgs play in times of crisis. So thinking back, nearly 2 years ago to September 2019, when 15-year-old William Parsons was tragically and fatally shot, OST spaces like Youth in Action opened doors early, and they stayed late for weeks to process young people's grief and trauma and to organize around public safety. And in this last year of the pandemic, these same organizations have been working triple and quadruple time to really maintain community connections and provide for young people's and families' basic needs, and offer vital emotional support. So Youth in Action is a org that serves primarily Providence high school students. It serves BIPOC students, first or second generation, and working class. And they come from the communities hit hardest by this pandemic. Yet with intentional and consistent support, youth at YIA have channeled these struggles towards social change. In the last year, they've done incredible work focused on language justice, domestic violence, and outdoor equity to meet the demands of COVID and start new timely projects that are focused around youth homelessness. The adult leadership at Youth in Action advocates tirelessly to ensure that the youth have resources, care, and support that they need to manage and heal with the harms of the pandemic and accomplish their goals. Thinking about this last year, our young people have a lot of healing to do from the losses of the COVID pandemic and the ongoing harms of structural racism. And out-of-school time spaces are essential partners in helping our youth, families, and state recover. So I advocate strongly for the passage of this critical legislation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Victoria. There does not appear to be any questions from the committee, so thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you again.
Our last witness on this piece of legislation is Rick McAuliffe, representing the Rhode Island Alliance of YMCAs, the Rhode Island Child Care Directors Association, and the Rhode Island Business Owners of Child Care in support. Rick, welcome to Senate Finance.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good. I know you have a long day today, and I want to just thank you for your public service and members of your committee, and obviously your staff as well. Rick McAuliffe here on behalf of the YMCAs, the Rhode Island Child Care Directors Association, and the Business Owners of Child Care. So I represent essentially the associations that deal with child care in the state. And in addition to infant and toddler care, we do a lot of, we actually primarily do before and after school programs. And every year we're trying to create better programs to have our children whose parents are working during the day have an opportunity to get comprehensive learning, skill work, and so forth for the older kids during the year. And obviously in the summer, when we have these camps that are all day long, it's important to have the right programming and stuff so the kids are being fulfilled, not just recreationally and physically, but also obviously emotionally, and help with their skill development and so forth. So we strongly support Senator Kano's bill. It's a good first step to allow these organizations, not just the ones that I represent, but ones like Boys and Girls Club that's in your district, Mr. Chairman, and some of these other summer camps and programs that are really good around the state that just lack the funding to be able to increase their capacity and so forth. So I know you have a lot of choices every year in the budget, and I know this year, this hearing, there's a lot of people online asking for money. But again, this is money that is well spent now that'll certainly serve our citizenry much better later on when they have the skills and so forth that they can compete for jobs and hopefully staying in Rhode Island. So for all those reasons, we think it's a good piece of legislation. Obviously, we wanted more money, but we thought this would be the most reasonable with the choices you have to make. And so for all that, we hope that you and the committee would support this for our children of Rhode Island and the people that they serve. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rick. That does conclude. Thank you so much. There does not appear to be any questions, and that does conclude our testimony on Senate Bill 577. Senator Palmer makes a motion to hold 577, second by Senator Sosnowski. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator De Palma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano. Senator Cano. Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny. Senator Seveny, yes. Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
8 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Senator Sosnowski, would you also like to be recorded in the affirmative on the motions to hold 373 and 292?
Yes, please.
So ordered. Senator Cano. I'm not sure. Okay. With that, for members of the committee, we do have a hard stop today at 5 p.m. The Senate Committee on Commerce is scheduled to meet from 5 o'clock. Given the nature of our remote meetings, we only can have our committee meetings go for so long, and we have to exceed the time to the next committee to meet. So with that, at 5:04 p.m., we are out of time today, so the last bill on our agenda, Senate Bill 587, will be heard at a future Finance Committee meeting so that we can properly hear that bill and the testimony on it, and the Senate Commerce Committee will begin to meet shortly. Thank you so much, Senator Felag. That concludes our meeting for today. Senator Felag makes a motion to adjourn, second by Senator Palmer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.